nurse working on the Amazon River, a teenager on fire for mission, Sidewalk Sabbath School. All this and much more coming up next. Hello and welcome to the program, coming to you today from the breathtakingly beautiful city of Vancouver. One of the most interesting areas in this city is the historic Gastown district. And back in the 1970s, when they were renovating and involved in urban renewal, there was a steam vent that was causing a lot of problems. And so to fix the problem, they built this amazing steam-powered clock. And what was once a problem has now become a tourist attraction. And as we look at the challenge of mission to the cities, we need to also be looking at creative ways to fix problems, creative ways to meet people's needs. And on today's program, we'll be talking to a young pastor involved in what he calls Sidewalk Sabbath School, taking Sabbath School to the streets. My guest is Pastor Walter Rogers, who's here to talk about an intriguing ministry called Sidewalk Sabbath School. Thanks, Walter. What a wonderful, I love the name. Tell us about the ministry.
Well, I'll just give like 3 sentences of history, right?
Sure.
Basically, the Lord called me for the last 6 years to minister in Benton Harbor, which is a low-income community in Michigan. And we started bringing children to church to learn about Jesus. We got all these buses, and it led to a lot of expenses and a lot of distraction from ministries, a lot of time and a lot of money, and most importantly the time and stress. And then, long story short, God called us, instead of bringing the kids to church, because we're reaching many more children than adults, to then switch and bring church to the children. And that changed my life. It was so much easier. It was so much cheaper. The most noticeable benefit was, instead of spending all this time on the infrastructure of a busing system, we were able to spend that time mentoring young leaders from the local community. And by the time I left this last summer, we had a team from the inner city that were the leaders. It wasn't outsiders like me leading the ministry, and the young people, they see it as very empowering in a low-income area. And so, yeah, super excited. It's very doable. Our Protestant brothers are doing it all over the world. They're doing it in the garbage dumps in Manila, the Philippines. They're doing it in Romania with the gypsy populations. They're doing it several places in Africa. And it's very practical, very doable, for a lot less cost and a lot less stress than bringing children to church. When the parents aren't ready, you bring church to the children, and then through that ministry, you minister to the whole family, and then eventually you bring the entire family to church.
I just love that. I mean, it's not just practical and doable, it's biblical. I mean, because so often we're thinking about how can we attract people to the church? How do we bring them in? Which is all very good, but the commission is actually to go, right? And so you're taking it to the context of these kids.
Yes, and there's many benefits. First of all, you're allowed, so the parents will come out and listen. And remember, it works best in a high population density and low incomes, because people want something good for the kids, any culture. And so then they're much more open to the gospel, as long as you're doing something, quote, positive for the children.
Right.
But then, because you're there, the parents that won't come to church will come out on their porch and listen to you. And we don't mess around. We play with the kids, but everything we're doing is Christ-centered, gospel, biblical. We're always teaching truth in a fun, relevant way, in a simple way that children can understand, which of course the children can understand, adults can understand. So there's many of those benefits. And again, one of the biggest things is you're saving the time and money that you can then put into discipleship.
Now describe for me a typical Sabbath school and the sidewalk. What sort of things do you do? How long does it take? That sort of thing.
Well, first of all, the method that the Lord has led me to use is, instead of doing like a VBS, really intense for 1 week, we'll go for several weeks, and we'll go the same programs. Let's say we're doing the 10 Commandments, and commandment number 1, have no other gods. We'll do that one program at several sites, 2 to 3 sites per day. So we prepare it, let's say Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday we go to site 1, 2, 3, then we do the same program at site 4, 5, 6, the next day same program at site 7, 8, 9, etc. And then the next week you come back and do program number 2 at those 9 sites sequentially. So you're having a more of a long-term relationship going on with a little bit each week, but over the long term. What the program looks like when I go to a site, we'll go out, literally go into the highways and byways to compel them to come in that my house may be filled. And so we'll actually go out with a little flyer, just a little piece of paper, can be very small, can even be a business card, and it'll say some fun stuff for kids. You talk to kids, you say, oh, we're going to play games, there'll be some prizes, that's all they hear. And they'll come for that. They'll come for the bread,
right,
the loaves, and then Jesus gives them the Word of God.
Okay.
And then with the parents, you always have, well, we're going to teach them to respect their parents. We're going to teach them to stay in school, stay off of drugs, right? So you have both of those on your little invite, but it's a piece of paper that you give. So you do that, you build relationships, you play on the swing set with them, you kick a soccer ball around them, whatever. So it's more relaxed, more simple, relational, and an invite. Then you can do the program after that. You can come back to the program the next day. There's various ways to do it. I've done different styles that way, but that there's a visit before the program. Then the program is either the same day or the next day, and that's where you might just go and do a quick invite. Hey everybody, kids program over there. So the kids come in. As they're coming in, we're throwing a Frisbee around, something simple, play a game like guess that number. I got a number in my head. What do you think it is? And then as they come in, then of course we have prayer, and then we start the program. It's about a 1 hour of biblical power. And I don't mince my words. I try and do Mark Finley for children. We don't entertain them. It's not cotton candy. And so with that, we start off with some games that reinforce the lesson. Like if we're doing creation, we'll do an atom making contest out of Play-Doh, or an Eve making contest out of wire, right? So it's the biblical story, but it's fun. It's about 80% fun, 20% learning. We'll get the wiggles out, try and get the kids moving so they can listen later on. Then we'll teach at one theme, let's say it's creation, we'll teach it with 7 different ways. We'll introduce it with a little visual prop, right? Let's say it's an iPhone or whatever, and you're saying someone made this iPhone, right? And then we'll go to a Bible verse. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And we'll have a game with that, like a Wheel of Fortune game type thing. And then we'll go into about 3 object lessons. Sometimes 2, sometimes 5, but multiple visual, concrete object lessons that reinforce the creation theme. That in the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth. Then we'll end with a story. My favorite 2 is we either do Pilgrim's Progress, which I'm currently doing here in British Columbia, or it's kind of my Mona Lisa of children's ministry, is doing a continuing story through the Bible, kind of a conflict of the ages. And so we'll do Adam and Eve in the creation, and then we'll end with Eve was warned, and she saw the tree. What was she going to do? She got closer and closer to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and she remembered what God said. Then all of a sudden, there was a talking snake. And the snake said, you won't die if you eat this fruit. Eve started to reach out her hand, and we'll continue this story next week.
That's wonderful. For people who want to find out more information, or they think, I'd like to start one of these up in my community, where can they start? How can they start?
Well, first of all, there's lots of training available. You can Google Sidewalk Sunday School. There's several videos of that from Protestant friends. Get in contact with me. My email, you can reach me at sidewalksabbathschool@gmail.com.
Wonderful.
And I'm at Aldergrove Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. God bless.
You're very welcome.
And we'll be back right after this break. Well, that's about it for today's program, and I hope that you've been challenged and inspired by what you've seen and heard. From cities such as Vancouver to countries such as Brazil, people young and old are sharing the light of God's love in many, many practical ways. And I want to thank you so much for your continuing support of mission around the world, through your prayers, through your personal involvement, and through your financial support. And before we go, I'd like to send you a free book. If you live in North America, please make sure to ask for the It's Time book. It's hot off the presses, voices from the front lines of urban mission. This is the new mission field, the huge cities of the world. And this book is full of practical examples, wonderful stories of holistic mission in the cities. So please make sure to ask for the It's Time Urban Mission book. Well, thanks so much for joining us today for Adventist Mission. I'm Gary Krause, and I hope you can join me next time right here on Mission 360.